So there was a time on social media that your girl, me, Jamie, wore wigs and a very heavy filter on the TikToks and the Instagrams. And a lot of people had no idea why I was doing that. And I think most people just thought I was playing a character, which kind of worked out well because now I do use those wigs for characters. But I actually, there was a reasoning behind my wigs. And the reasoning was, even though I was very forthright at my job at the time that I was on social media and they were supportive of it, someone kept sending my videos to my boss and she started to get worried. And so she essentially sat me down, wrote me like a little letter. And this is actually how Ashley and I became good friends. Ashley and I were already friends via social media, but I reached out to Ashley and I was like, this is fucking bullshit. Like, what do I do with this? And so Ashley having a yes face, thank God. I mean, I guess it worked out to your advantage because look at now we're all on a podcast, but
yeah, no, it was good.
I reached out to her and I'm like, this feels like bullshit. What are your thoughts? And essentially they were asking me to not show my face on social media, but my face is a part of the brand. And even though my memes, I am behind the scenes, I was like, fuck that noise. And so I invested in a couple cheap wigs on Amazon and I proceeded to continue to do my videos in a wig and a very heavy glamour filter. And I mean, I was even like in my fucking pool with the wigs on. Like I was committed. So if you ever see me posting a video from like 2-3 years ago with a wig and that heavy ass filter on, that's why. Because I actually had someone once make like a snide comment about it. They're like, "Why are you doing this? That you look so silly with that filter on. Everyone can tell it's fake." I'm like, that's kind of the fucking point. But I said, you know, the reason why I was like,
I'm incognito.
I was like, I'm trying to be incognito, and they were like, well, but aren't you like in articles and stuff? Because I had like an HR Brew article come out, and I'm like, sure do. And like a New York Times article came out like almost back to back. I'm like, sure do. But for some reason, the articles don't bother them. The social media does.
I mean, I can remember walking up and down my street with AirPods in, talking to Jamie and stopping on my phone. And she was like, I'll send you what they sent me. And I'm like, what do you mean sent me? It wasn't just a conversation. She's like, no, they want me to sign something. And I was like, what the fuck? But also I was like, because I was looking at the videos and I'm like, I guess I never noticed it was like a heavy filter and wig. I'm like, because this is you. Like, I can tell this is you. This isn't even pixelated like a Dateline episode. This is you.
Oh, yeah.
And she's like, no, I know. You can literally tell that it's me. Like, there is no question. But so I remember getting back up, coming up to my computer and like reading this thing. And I was like, what the fuck? I was like, this is the most corporate shit I've ever seen. I mean, literally, it was like, and I told Jamie, I was laughing. I was like, I can tell you a law firm lawyer was involved in drafting this 100%. Like I can, oh my God. It was like, first of all, because it was a letter and it was all bullet pointed out with the things. And I remember talking to Jamie and I was like, listen, like, do you care if you get fired? I was like, I want to ask you really honestly, like, do you care if you get fired? Like, is that like, and she's like, no, I do. And I'm like, okay. So I'm like, if you got to sign this, like do what I'm like, everybody's always got to choose what you're going to do based on what you want to happen. And I'm like, if you're willing to live within these, I was like, I mean, honestly, I'll be like, this is the stupidest shit I've ever seen because I can understand they're trying to thread a needle here, but yeah, it was, I chuckled looking at that one.
See, that's why I didn't recognize you when I first met you, because the hair. Like you know what I mean? Like,
but your hair is so long, I thought.
And then I remember going back and watching, I was like, oh, that's a wig. And you know what I mean? It's like, oh gosh, filter, yeah. And then you realize, you know, that girl's trying to stay employed over here. You know what I mean?
I was trying to, but it's all good because my current company wrote it into my offer letter that it was okay. So.
Mm-hmm.
Deep in the ocean, an orca pod is on the hunt. But these aren't your average orcas. These guys are organized.
Marketing team, did you get those social media posts scheduled for the SEAL migration?
Aye, Captain. We even have an automated notification for all pod managers when they go live.
They use Monday.com to keep their teamwork sharp, their communication clear, and their goals in sight. Monday.com. For whatever you run, even orcas. Go to Monday.com to dive deeper.
Ding, ding. Employee survey time. When you're an HR professional trying to make work better, did you know that SurveyMonkey can make your life easier in doing that? On HR Besties, we talk about how it's important to get feedback from employees and act on it. SurveyMonkey's ready-to-go HR survey templates can make it so much easier for you to know what and how to ask it. Because you want to get employee input and then act on it, so you're not just guessing, right? Well, these templates are designed for you, so you can gather targeted insights that directly support and enhance your HR strategies. When you know better, you do better, right? I've used SurveyMonkey to find out how people like to be recognized. Some people love to be celebrated publicly, but not everyone does. When you ask people their preferences and honor them, that's the HR support that people love. Go see how SurveyMonkey's HR templates can help you get the data-driven input you want, from manager effectiveness to benefits to job satisfaction. Go see them yourself and tell us how you use them. Transform your HR plans from guesswork to precision. Explore SurveyMonkey templates at surveymonkey.com. Share how SurveyMonkey drives your insights and strategies with us.
Oh, gosh. So, shall we shift to the agenda? Got a bit of a spoiler there with that hot goss from Jamie. But first things first, though, we'll do some cringe corporate speak, and that's going to be brought to us by Ashley today. Thank you in advance for covering that. And then our hot topic of this meeting is another topic that so many of you all ask us questions about. So this is a listener proposed topic, and it's all things content creation 101. So I've got some of the questions that you all have asked us here. I'm sure we'll just start talking right in our business and bullshit, kind of way. But it turns out some of you all are curious on what the hell is content creation behind the scenes, especially for business people and HR professionals. And some of our tips and best practices. It sounds like so many of you all are interested and doing more with your socials and self-promotion, which is really, really cool for us to hear. So we'll turn that inside out and talk all things content creation and influencing social promotion. And then, of course, at the end, we will do questions and comments as always. Ashley, cringe corporate speak. What do you got for us today? I'm sure it's a good one.
Well, today's corporate speak is aligned with all of the topics today, and that is pick your brain.
Ooh.
And the way people will tend to hear that is you may hear that at work by someone stopping by, often when you're very busy, but someone will say, let me pick your brain on something. Or you may get that from people outside of work who just want free advice. You're not even paid for it. But so this aspect of pick your brain, which is like, I want, information on something that's taken you a long time to build up. And I want that really quickly and free and applicable to my situation. And I say that because, also there is a lot of value in giving your advice to others. And we all try to do that on the podcast and through our social media. But have you all ever heard pick your brain?
Oh, yes. I probably have at some point. I wouldn't say regularly.
Do you use it? I don't think I use it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, let me ask you something.
Yeah.
Hey, let me get your advice on something. Hey, let me.
Yes.
I do more of that. But yeah, pick your brain is a little cringe. I don't know why, but I always picture monkeys eating lice off of each other.
Well,
like that, you know what I mean? Like someone's like up in your hair.
The origins are, and I had looked into this. The origins are because Leigh, you did that. You did that last time, and that's my job. That's what I really. If I don't do it, then I have no value. And so, no, just kidding. But the origins are from the 1800s of when physicians would actually take apart pieces of someone's brain to diagnose them. So that was the picking of the brain. That now they said it became popular again in the 1980s and 90s with corporate deals of picking your brain between picking the brains of corporate tech or whatever executives. But Jamie, what do you think?
Gross. I'm grossed out because now that's what I'm going to picture.
Like lobotomies.
Yeah. Literal.
Autopsy-ish stuff.
Yeah. Lobotomies.
Yeah.
Ugh. I will no longer be using that. I will stop myself dead in my tracks.
Yeah, you can just ask for advice. It's not, sometimes we have the corporate speak and what we give as an alternative is so long.
Yeah,
let me ask your
exactly.
advice.
It's really that easy. Hey, I got a couple questions.
I I'd say thought partner. From my time in corporate, I say thought partner, which I can't remember if we've used that as cringe corporate
we
speak,
have.
But it's we did thought leader.
Oh, thought leader.
Thought leader,
but
I don't think thought partner is more of you wouldn't tend to put thought leader would be on your LinkedIn headline. Thought partner would be in your mouth.
In your mouth.
Thought partner and like your corporate speak. But we will see this, and maybe this is a transition, is we will see this at times of people reaching out, being like, you've built this social media following. Let me pick your brain on how to do that. And again, there's reasons that it's hard to take. The paths we have each taken are very different to get to where we are today. And we can talk about that. But so there's absolutely none. And I can tell you the number one recipe for disaster is to try to mimic exactly what somebody else has done. Because when we see it just never comes across as quite your authentic voice.
I think that's a great transition.
Hey.
Paths into content creation, social influencing.
What do people want to know?
That's like one of the top questions. It really is. Like I said, I got a list over here. How did you get started as a content creator? What inspired you to get started?
Leigh, you want to kick us off?
Yeah. I had left yet another horrifically toxic job, right? And I said, hey, I'm going to take the summer off and I'm going to write that book that I'm still writing, but the book that every HR person says they're going to write. And then I wanted to test content for that book. And I downloaded TikTok, posted 2 videos that day. It was June 3rd, 2021. That's my HR Manifesto inception date there, my TikTok anniversary. And I think it was 2 weeks later, I had 10,000 followers, so the content really resonated with people, which I was thankful for. And I went into it just saying, hey, I want to help one person. Video 2, someone reached out to me with a DM and said it was helpful in some way. I think I have a screenshot of that. I took a photo. So everything for me since then was, hey, well, I already accomplished my goal of helping someone. So it's just kind of been gravy ever since. But that's how I got started in doing that. I had a break. I had a pivot point career-wise, and this was very unexpected and not at all purposeful. Ladies, anybody?
I know I've told this story before, but humorous resources was actually always something that I actually started a Pinterest board, I think in 2015 about it. And it's something I'd always kind of had in the back of my head, and I didn't know what that meant or what it was, but somehow bringing humor to HR. And so how it started was in September of 2020, during the pandemic, I was working in healthcare, HR, and I literally felt like I was going insane. And so I was a department of one, and I really just needed some humor. But I was like thinking of the funny things in my head. So I just kind of started humorous resources, and I was shocked that, to be completely honest, because I don't know, I mean, like memes, like they're just silly little things, but I didn't realize that it would take off as much as it would. And it's turned into like this corporate humor commiserate page that we all laugh about dumb shit in corporate. And it's not just corporate America, you know what I mean?
And millennial misery too. I mean,
yeah. Millennial misery was later because it was July of 2021. I had so many nostalgia things that I remembered from my childhood being an elder millennial that I wanted to share memes that obviously didn't fit on humorous resources. So I started millennial misery.
How do you get your meme? How did you get your memes? And maybe that's changed over times, but
it's usually I will think of something or I'll see a photo and I will be like, oh my God, that's me when I haven't had my coffee in the morning. Or, you know what I mean? It's usually when I see photos. And so a lot of times I'm inspired by watching, if there's an award show, or even sometimes when I'm watching football on Sundays with my husband and they'll show Aaron Rodgers on the sideline looking defeated because he plays for the Jets. And being like, oh my God, I could make a meme out of that, and just kind of humanizing celebrities too a little bit, but even Simpsons and stuff like that. I get inspired by seeing little things like that and making them more human for us.
I kind of same that thoughts in my head. And I've told you all I wanted to be a playwright growing up, and I never did anything really that creative professionally with it. But I had left my corporate job in summer of 2020. because I wanted to do something different. COVID, again, I was exhausted from being in legal and people. And I'd started Manager Method before that and was going to work more on that, and had Manager Method as an organization, as a company, to help do manager training and things like that. I had that written into my deal the prior year, but then COVID happened. And so all I did was work at that corporate job. And so I left that job to start Manager Method. I started that connected to my husband's friend's search firm, like a legal search firm. And so I was helping him do recruiting and some of that. So I got a taste of that, which is like, oh my God, I realized that is not for me. And also I realized in the recruiting world, people wanting recruiting candidates do not give a shit about manager training at the moment. And so it just didn't make sense. So I was doing fractional work and things like that. So honestly, I was really like at my most unsteady. Like I had this idea for Manager Method. I was doing some of it. I had a lot of self-doubt. Do I go back into corporate? And so as I'd started doing then fractional work, including working with some prior companies, it was January of 2022, and I actually had started first on YouTube because I was doing videos where I broke down the OSHA vaccine mandate, which in the US was like the mandate by this government agency about vaccinations of employees. And it's totally wild to think about it now. And that kind of went through a lot of the same core processes that like the non-compete ban, exempt salary ban. So when you hear me break those down, I was doing that, doing long blogs, Q&A about that. And so I did a super long Q&A blog about that. And people are like, oh, this is really helpful to break it down. And that's when I realized, my background, everything that made me feel really unsteady of like, what the fuck am I? Like I'd been a lawyer. I became head of HR at North America at McKinsey, and I left that to start this. What the fuck was I thinking? Like what? And a lot of those doubts. But then I thought, well, hold on a second. I can take these things, but break them down into concepts for people that don't have to and should not go to law school. God knows, or HR. And so I started making. I did like TikTok videos on my personal channel with like my kids for years before that, but I started just doing these like role play kind of things, videos on TikTok first. And I didn't have, quite that growth, but about 6 months later, I hit just a wave in the algorithm when I did a video about pumping at work. And I then gained like 100,000 followers within a few weeks from that. And it was totally wild, but that's kind of what got me going with content creation. But I first, again, like a lot of you all, I started and hit videos, and when I look at them now, I'm like, oh my God, they're so broke ass. But I just was trying to find my voice.
When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. So, fun fact, I actually just celebrated 15 years on LinkedIn. And in those 15 years, I have actually used LinkedIn Jobs. In one case, I needed to fill a critical role quickly. Posting the job on LinkedIn allowed me to reach a wide pool of highly qualified candidates. And the great thing is there's a filtering tool that saved me time and I could focus on the best match. LinkedIn isn't just a job board. LinkedIn helps you hire professionals you can't find anywhere else, even those who aren't actively searching for a new job but might be open to the perfect new role. In a given month, over 70% of LinkedIn users don't visit other leading job sites. So if you're not looking on LinkedIn, you're looking in the wrong place. On LinkedIn, 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within 24 hours. Hire professionals like a professional on LinkedIn. 2.5 million small businesses are already using LinkedIn for hiring. So what are you waiting for? Go post your job for free on linkedin.com/HRBesties. That's linkedin.com/HRBesties to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply.
I was recently on a girls' trip, and as you do in the mountains, we were sitting around taking personality tests and loving the chilly fall weather. A friend said that she was looking for more sweaters, and I mentioned Quince. Another friend said, I love Quince. Their cashmere sweaters are everything. So we all started looking and building shopping carts, ponchos, jeans. That same friend ran to her suitcase and grabbed a poncho she'd gotten from Quince and said someone stopped her and complimented her on it. When she told them she got it at Quince, they responded, well, you look like old money in that. But she didn't have to spend as much money as you think, because Quince partners directly with top factories and cuts out the cost of the middleman, which passes the savings on to us. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices. And of course, premium fabrics and finishes for that luxury feel in every piece. Now, I'll give you the same code that I gave to all my friends. As I told them, it shows that you support the HR Bestie show and you get amazing ready-for-fall clothes. Get cozy in Quince's high-quality wardrobe essentials. Go to quince.com/HRBesties for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/HRBesties to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/HRBesties.
You want another question from a bestie?
Yeah.
I've got, how do you consistently come up with fresh ideas for content?
I think it's kind of like what's trending right now on social media. So like, a couple months back when it was quiet quitting, quiet vacationing, or even like when it's a trend on TikTok, like the demure, very demure. I like to take those trends and flip them in a different way, or even like spin it in an HR way on it. That's kind of where I look, is like what's trending right now. What's everyone talking about?
I probably have a mix of trending things, or someone will tag into a video, and sometimes I see those, sometimes I don't, but I'll like stitch that. But I have I don't have a broad strategy on things, but I will have, like, I think a lot of us have is a notes, like I have a notes app on my phone, and I just have a list of different things. And some of that I think of like the employee life cycle, things people go through, like from exit interviews to parental leave. Other times, you can look at news articles that will always, there's the content, real life always has content, or experiences that, especially if I've seen those happen more than once. That's where I bring. What about you, Leigh?
Well, I am very neurologically spicy. I absolutely have ADHD and anxiety, and I'm an only child, which should also be some sort of disorder or something, some sort of mental illness. But I cannot turn my mind off. So I'm one of those people where I'm almost haunted with it half the time, right? I have crazy vivid dreams. I've just, like the thing is just busy over here. So I'll tell you that most of my content just it's unscripted. It's me talking to a camera. That's what makes it really easy for me to do, and why it comes across very authentic or genuine, because I'm not reading anything half the time, right? Or 95% of the time. And it's just me, like, from my heart kind of speaking. It really is, or my memes, so I, like Ashley, I have an open email draft, not even a notes app. Damn. I mean, It's like a Google open draft email of like thousands of ideas. And then I have something over in, the Google Drive. I mean, so the ideas are just everywhere. I have to write them down constantly. That's why it's an open draft on my email. Just real quick, I could just throw something in there to remember the idea, right? Like when I get out of the shower or whatnot. But I don't follow anybody, as you all know, and they laugh at me about. So my algorithm's a trash can. I just get all whatever. I don't spend a lot of time on the social like that. Half the time, they know I don't even like know the news or what's hot. I learn all my shit from them in the text group. I'm not even kidding. So that's where I get my intel. So I'm really not inspired a lot by what I'm reading or seeing. It's more, it's coming inside. So I just talk about whatever, for the most part, whatever I feel like, I guess. That doesn't help anyone else create their own content. But if your mind's a fucking mess, like mine, there's a way to get it out, right? So people call my page therapeutic. Yeah, for me too. Like really, I mean, it's very cathartic for me too.
Every once in a while I'll talk to other people. I don't really talk to anybody generally except for Leigh and Jamie. No, people will talk.
No, that's a lie.
But people will talk about things, and they're so into like analytics and strategy and stuff like that. And on some hand, it depends what you want it for. But there's a reason when you look at like, and we'll get into this, like brands that want to work with individual social media creators. There's a reason that, with some certain exceptions, but a lot of brand social media is terrible because it's like every law firm on LinkedIn that like their pages are all like, announcing webinar October, whatever, November, blah, 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 blah. Like it's all very factual or boring, or other brands that'll try to like bring a trending concept in once and you're like, oh, okay. Or people that I talk to that are like so focused on like follower counts and analytics and views. And I understand that. And there's obviously some like dopamine and other reasons for that. But I mean, in some of this is, I probably looked at that stuff more when I was first starting out, but when you quickly realize it's a little bit of a crapshoot, but that's also one thing that you learn over time. And now having done this 2.5 years is that's not where my joy is going to come from. And I would much rather have an account that I enjoy and do work that I enjoy doing. And honestly, some of that I think has been stuff that Leigh has talked about in some of this, of like finding your joy and doing things that finding your purpose and like leaning into that. But I think if you focus a lot on those analytics and views, or I'm going to delete this video, it doesn't have views, or all these things, if you're trying too hard, then it tends to come through. Or if you're trying to be like other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we bitch about that.
Yeah,
between us as content creators talk, we're not all friends with each other like y'all think, but we do talk, and that's one thing where it's like, it's disingenuous. It's not authentic.
When you're blatantly copying another content creator and not even like giving them credit or inspired by.
Yeah, give me an inspo.
That's insanely frustrating. Yeah, that's insanely frustrating.
Yeah, it just comes across corny sometimes, of like, there's so many people that have great content. Like, oh, that's fantastic. But then when you see some, like, and I will see it often when I see one person that does something all the time and then somebody else starts doing that. And you're like, and it's like exactly the same. Other people will be like, oh, this person copied me. And you're like, well, that's a very, people have the same thoughts. So it's a fine line, but really like focusing on the stuff. That's where I've found my most success. And I don't mean success in like a money or views or things way, but like the feeling I have. I love what I am doing right now in my work and my life, but in part of that because like I make videos that I enjoy, and every once in a while I'll make some video. I'm like, I don't really like that, so I just delete it. But
do you delete content sometimes?
Well, I don't delete content when I post it. I mean, I just won't post it. Like, okay. No. I don't. Well, rarely, unless I'm like, yes. Like I misspoke. But oh God, I'm sorry. Oh God, sorry. But I think, but one thing is, I don't know if people ask questions on this, but the hate, how you deal with the negativity that comes with things. And is that a question people have?
How do you handle negative comments or online criticism? That is a question.
We send them in our group chat and roast the fuck out of you.
Well, I'd say 98% of my shit is very positive. Like I really enjoy my experience online. If I didn't, I wouldn't do it. So shout out, to my fellow toxic workplace survivors or those that follow me. I just adore you all so much. You all are very supportive, and it just fills my heart. It really does. Like it means a lot to me. It makes my days. And so it's rare, thankfully, that I get someone hating on me now. Wasn't always like that. As you start to climb, people tear you down as much as possible to put you in your place. I learned that, right? So like we're first starting out, it's like, oh, wow, people can see perhaps potential in you for doing what you're doing. And so at the beginning, there was a lot of wear your mascara this way. You'd be pretty if you didn't do X, Y, and Z. You sound like a man. Are you a man? Is that an Adam's apple? I mean, whatever. I'm not, but you do you, boo. But, all these things, right? Or this content. Well, I don't know that I got negative content. It was always mostly my look, I think, or whatever. And people will really criticize you. And I noticed that in the beginning. as I've continued and have become, I don't want to say a staple, but maybe from a social perspective, it's been 3 years now, right? So I've been coming up on people's feeds, or they would have just ignored or blocked me by now, which I totally, please do if I'm annoying. I don't want you to have a bad day. But, that really shifted for me to where if someone were to put something, my followers are going to attack them. They go after them. I see them go on that person's page that said the bad comment, right? Like you have people that start having your back, right? Because people start really getting to know you and defend you all funny. But when I do have a negative comment, I get really bad secondhand embarrassment for the person who left the comment, just naturally. And I hate the feeling of embarrassment. And what I tend to do is just delete that comment, because I am embarrassed for them and I don't want to see it. I don't want any negative shit on my page. That page is mine. And I want the vibe to be high. Like you misread the room looking at these comments, being all fun and jovial and whatever. And then you're going to come in here with some dumbass comment, like you forgot to put Botox in your forehead. I don't have Botox in my forehead. So I guess I did forget. But you know what I'm saying? Like some dumbass, like rude or just not aligned comment, So to me, I just delete them. And then sometimes I block them if they're really like, oh, I do not want to see something like this again. You know what I mean? But that's how I do it, which is different than how other people do it, So I think everyone kind of used that a little different. But in the beginning, it was tough because you're being kind of validated, on the interwebs.
I think that's the most frustrating, though, is when people are making comments on your physical appearance.
Always physical.
And it's like, I can't fucking help it. I look like this, you asshole. Like, either like my video, laugh, or keep scrolling, And that's one thing that still constantly bothers me. Not so much for myself. It's more like when you guys show a comment, like it really pisses me off because I'm like, why? You took time out of your day to write the shitty comment on my friend's post for what? And I will say it's not just men. Women are bad too. And it's just so disappointing. Like, I'm okay if you don't agree with something maybe I'm saying in my video. That's okay.
Let's talk
Go
about
ahead.
it.
Yeah. Go for it. But if you're going to comment on my appearance, I have a fucking problem with that. And that's just rude. And who raised you?
It's rarely about the content. Is that right?
It's
especially
never.
being a female creator.
Mm-hmm.
I know in a different experience than our male friends and counterparts on the socials. We do talk about that.
I get some, because I'll talk more about HR and do videos on like HR being helpful, and so I will constantly get legal stuff, and so
HR stuff,
so legal stuff actually, like, often it's like a breakdown of things, and people are like, thank you for breaking this down, but sometimes people are like, this should keep this under 60 seconds.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm sorry, I can't break down. Like, again, I really try.
No, because I don't get bonus monies if it's under 60 seconds, dumbass.
I know.
Just FYI, influencer insight.
I'm like, if I'm trying to explain something, give like a history, because it's like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, because otherwise then I'll make a follow-up video that you can tell it's like a responding to a comment on another video because it has the little comment bubble. And I'm talking about non-competes, and someone's like, explain what the fuck non-competes are. Thanks. Or next time do that. Like all rude and like this. And I'm like, I'll be like, I have a playlist of that. And they're like, the video's too long. I'm like, okay. So I do I get it on the physical stuff. I mean, you look old, or like the person that said I look like Carson Kressley, which I like Carson Kressley. So there we are, but it's fine. You do get that stuff. And so, but I do get on the content aspect as well. And so for those that are listening that are wanting to, think about getting into it, I mean, the number one thing I say to people is like, be consistent, because like that's a gap. And it doesn't mean like, we've talked about taking breaks. And like, again, when I first did it, I'd do videos 7 days a week. I do not do that anymore. But being consistent is showing up at least on a regular basis, but also steeling yourself against the negativity and knowing no matter how much you say you are, it really sucks. And so having people that you can talk to and reach out to, and knowing like when those things happen, those can really mentally impact you. And other things that can happen. I mean, the ladies know I've had, earlier this year, I had one that was like rocked me to my core, honestly. And it was someone that put out like a really attacking post that was also wrong, but then I don't want to give this person attention by saying wrong, that had a ton of engagement, was incredibly personal and wrong. And my kids saw it, and it, because it was on a platform that my kids, I would not have think there was something negative. And it was really unnecessary and brutal and so inappropriate. And so those things happen, and they kind of will make you question everything. So ultimately it's deciding, like, if you're at the start, is thinking like, what are you going to do when these things happen? And sometimes you don't know until they happen. So anyway.
I was just going to say, and I had a whole blog post written about me because I defended you. So that fucking lady's never mind.
Anyway, well, it was personal in an aspect that, like, it wasn't, but it's the risk and dark side.
But that is the risk. That is the dark side. You're putting yourself out there, right? I mean, so. But
I think other times when people may ask this is then, so I have my own business now. And so for me, it's nice. It's kind of a sieve. So like I have all my content out there. You can kind of get the flavor of my general approach. And no, I don't talk in manager training quite like I do to Luke in those videos. But the approach I have, people can see it. And so it's been helpful for me because when I talk to people, like they know, generally what to expect or my approach. But I don't have to. It is very freeing because things like breaking down a SHRM lawsuit or things, there's no way. I mean, I wouldn't do that if I worked probably in a law firm environment or I worked for a company. I probably would have felt too nervous. And so Jamie in particular, I'm curious how you now, again, doing like still full-time work, how you do balance that.
Yeah. I mean, obviously I don't put out content regularly as far as my TikTok videos consistently. I wish that I could be more consistent, but having a job that does require me, and also I'm in HR, so you never know when there's a fire going to happen or everything's changing tomorrow and all hands on deck, or you know what I mean? I wish that I was more consistent. I do try to batch record as much as I can, but like sometimes I'm just not in the mood. Like I'm just not in the mood and I don't want to. So I do the best that I can. I try to record on weekends to have stuff filled up so I'm not cutting into my real job. I mean, it's difficult. And, a lot of times I too have a notes app of things that, that I want to make a meme of, or, like I really wanted to make a Halloween post, semi recently. And I was like, I kept saying I was going to do it. And finally I was like, I have to sit down and do it. Otherwise I'm never going to do it. So it's really hard. Between the podcast, my socials, my real job, being a mom, being a wife. It's hard to juggle everything, but you just kind of take it day by day, and then you just decide what's important to you.
I didn't hear any being Jamie.
No. Jamie's never in the equation.
Well, we will have something to say about that.
I know, always, but I'll tell you, I was working corporate and doing this, up until the end of last year.
Yeah,
right?
You were.
And so
right.
2024 is my first year being a full-time content creator, writer, speaker, all of those things, everything on the creative corporate side. I don't even know what you call this niche that we're in, but it was hell trying to balance all of that. Because like Jamie said, sometimes you're not in the mood to create, and you kind of have to strike when the iron's hot. So you'd have a day where, man, you're in the mood, you're on fire mentally, your heart's in everything, your energy's high, you're feeling great. And then you're at a work conference or you have all day meetings and it's like, whoop, like there goes all the creativity just sucked out, So it's incredibly hard to balance. Both, when you have passions and responsibilities and all of that, just like anything else people have with their hobbies and multiple jobs and side hustles, it's hard, to balance all of that. It's a bitch, but you prioritize what means something to you, So.
I mean, part of it when I was, same as I was doing fractional work, even
yes, I remember
really having Manager Method for I started Manager Method in December of 2019 is when I registered Manager Method, but it was only in January of this year that it was full on Manager Method. And I started building a team in 2023. So we have it's a team of 3, but I was still doing fractional work. So like I was in it doing work for multiple companies. I was a general counsel. I did, even general counsel last year and then head of people interim for Bluestone Lane Coffee Company, which I love, Australian in the US. But it was part of it was also, it's the same thing of in particular for me, having been a lawyer, is that legal background. It is helpful because it's brought me a lot of especially in forums, things that I'm like, managers really need to know this because it's going to cost a lot of money if they don't do it. What's really important to me is to teach managers what to do and what not to do because of the impact it has on people. But I also know at times working with employers, they need to understand the financial cost of it. But what was challenging to me is even though, generally I've actually enjoyed the legal work I've done, is you do feel like a situational janitor, like you got to figure things out. And so for me, making that shift now almost a year ago and doing that, there was some fear to it. Like a lot of people probably have, which is you got to have to Leigh's point of choosing what you want to do. That's also a bit of a privilege. And I've worked my ass off to get to the point where I could run Manager Method full time. And it's been amazing. My fear of what's going to happen if I'm not doing the legal work that, it pays very well, fractional legal work is now, I create these and do training programs and I love it. Love what I do. And so I discounted a bit the joy I would feel and that also things will work out, but no, also don't quit your job and try to become a full-time content creator straight away, because if you do get there, which is very hard, it's going to take a long time to get there. So there are times that you may have multiple layers to that career quilt and you got to leverage the ones that pay the bills.
Well, and I want to say something very important is when you see your favorite content creator promoting a brand, interact with it, leave a comment. Don't put anything shitty or stupid underneath it. Because here's what I'm going to say. We are producing content and providing content free. We do not get paid by any of these social media platforms to post content. It is all free. We may get, if we set up subscriptions, we may get a small nugget of that. Maybe. TikTok has a creator fund. I've never seen any money from that creator fund, and I've been in it for several years. But we do not make money from having followers. For instance, I have, over 2 million followers across my accounts. I don't get money from followers. And I think that's a common misconception that followers equal money and that no. Where we get our money is with these brand deals. And you can call us sellouts, whatever you want. I'm trying to feed my family and provide them a holiday and my husband's driving an old ass car. I'm trying to get him a car that's reliable. So if you see me posting something, don't be a hater. Just keep scrolling or like it and interact with it and go on. I know I'm incredibly picky, and I know these ladies are too, about what we put on our account. We want to make sure it's brands that make sense for our followers, but make sense with the content we're putting out, or brands that we actually use and like. And the same goes for the podcast too, right? We actually want to believe in what we're selling. But that is the little bit of money that we do receive is from those brands. And so it's important that I say this because this is my mic drop moment, because that bothers me the most is when I remember I posted something on Millennial Misery and someone said, I don't know what they said. It was just so hateful. It was I'm going to unfollow this fucking account. This is goddamn ridiculous that this person's posting something. And I'm like, yeah, God forbid I make $200 on posting this ad. Literally I'm making.
I think you said, oh, God forbid I buy my children Christmas presents or something.
Literally,
there was
literally,
a response like that.
Literally, God forbid I buy that one thing my child wanted that I couldn't afford before, and it's I created all this and I busted my ass. Yes, I know that sounds silly because it's social media, but like I worked hard to create this social media empire. And God forbid, I'm not trying to press a vibrator on you. Damn. But you know what I mean? Like I just, that's one thing that I think frustrates me the most, is haters about comments. And look, I know that there's every other damn fucking post is an ad. But there are people that also really thoughtful. And I can say at least the three of us are very thoughtful about what we post and brands we work with.
We've definitely had ones. I mean, we've had ones recently. Like, I'll look at it and be like, I want to hold off on promoting. And I won't even have the conversation. Like, I don't even know how much it possibly is. Cause I'm like, I appreciate it. Or it's something that's like in a similar space to something that I promoted recently. And so sometimes we'll have like non-compete type language. Speaking of non-compete language. But for me also, it's important to me to not be like, back to back, like speaking out of, both sides of my mouth. And so same as I like working with brands that I like and believe in, I'll put them in my newsletter sometimes to make it to like, I really like I done one recently that was a salary guide. It was like a free salary guide. And so some of the comments were like, oh, you're trying to get employers to pay less. I'm like, it's not. Go to the link. There's resources for employers, resources for job seekers. I've used this as HR to show these are things always to advocate for increases, never for and also for job seekers to have this as a resource. And so, but overwhelmingly that one was actually probably one of my favorites to date because it was a free resource just to get it in more eyeballs. And I mean, that response was like awesome. The team was awesome to work with. And so those are some things, I mean, I don't think any of us anticipated that coming into, like when I started making videos and was like making things, I certainly it wasn't. And I mean, I remember my first one that was an HR company that was like, we want to do a webinar and we'd love to pay you for your time to do this webinar with us.
And you're like, what? You want to
totally?
pay me?
I was on vacation. And it was the week I got viral, like with this pumping at work video. And I was like, what do I even charge for that? And I mean, whatever it was so little. And then the response, and they didn't know what they were doing, which is kind of like funny and cute because we're both like, it's like the awkward first date. Like, what do we do? Who pays the bill? What happens? But it was like, now I have a better sense of things and, what to do. And I, can do that. But it was pretty funny, but I just felt like I literally couldn't believe it. Like, it's amazing.
Grocery shopping at the holidays. I don't know what's more overwhelming, the crowds or the prices on the shelves. As you gear up for the busy holidays with all the expenses they entail, it's even more important to find ways to save time and money. For everyday low prices you can count on, go with the most affordable of any meal kit, Every Plate. Every Plate's fresh, pre-portioned ingredients are cheaper than groceries, so you can have more money for holiday shopping. Explore crowd-pleasing variety with Every Plate's rotating menu of more than 25 weekly recipes, like 30 minutes or less, family faves, which is my fave, Calorie Smart and veggie dishes. You can get ready for Thanksgiving with easy sides, like apple pie crescent rolls and sweet potato casserole. And if you've had all those rich holiday foods looking to take a break, they have a collection of holiday detox recipes. Simplify your weeks with hassle-free meals. With Every Plate, you get pre-planned, easy-to-make recipes delivered right to your door. With affordable dinners for just $5.99 per serving, plus 50% off your first box, Every Plate helps you save money for a stress-free holiday. Get this amazing deal by going to everyplate.com/podcast and entering code BESTIES599. That's code BESTIES599 at everyplate.com/podcast.
It's already that time of year again, and the holidays are quickly approaching, and you might be stressing about gift shopping, like me. Because even if your kids have already had their lists ready all year, chances are that there's probably a few items on that list that you know that they would love, but they give you a pause. One of those might be a smartphone, and it seems like kids are asking for these younger and younger these days. And like many parents, you probably have concerns about handing them over the same kind of smartphone you use, with good reason. And that's why I want to tell you about the Gab holiday sale. Gab is the leader in safe phones and watches for kids, teens, and tweens. There's no social media, no internet browsing, and there's GPS tracking, Gab devices were built from the ground up, specifically for kids and teens, and are the way to keep your kids safely connected. Kids also get unlimited talk and text with Gab Messenger, the first video and calling app designed with kids' safety as a top priority. It already blocks high-risk messages and content from even reaching your child's phone. The app is exclusive to Gab phones. It has a parent companion app for easy controls to keep you informed. I personally love the focus mode. So my youngest has the Gab watch, and I love that I can set focus mode for school hours so we can't get in trouble. That's why I really think Gab is a must-have this year, and I cannot recommend it enough that you and your family give them a try. And I would do it now because right now, Gab is offering a huge discounts on their phones and watches. The best part, there's no contact required. Just go to gab.com/HRBesties to get started. That's Gab, GABB.com/HRBesties. Gab.com/HRBesties. Terms and conditions apply.
Yeah, that was actually one of the questions is, hey, anything you can share or insights? I don't know. I have, like I said, I got a list here. No, but it's all about kind of working with brands. Like what has surprised you working with brands and how do you balance content creation and the business side of being an influencer? And I'll tell you, we signed some big contracts, and I don't mean money-wise, but that too. What I mean is the length.
Maybe Leigh.
I mean, the length. Yeah. I mean, this is taken off for me, and I'm really appreciative about it. I don't have to work in corporate anymore, but I'm talking the length of contracts. I'm talking 20-page contracts. Like this is a huge deal for billion-dollar brands, and this is marketing. So to Jamie's point, sell out, or have I use that product personally? Do I think this is a real solution for others that are like me? Yes. And do I also need to eat? Absolutely.
Yes.
Right.
All of those things.
Food.
I enjoy shelter.
It's a job. Yes, I do enjoy shelter and roofs and home, so please respect the content. And to Jamie's point again, we put out a lot of free laughs and a lot of free therapy and a lot of free support and community and guidance and expertise. And we all went into it to just do that. Right. This is something, the business part, right? We've been figuring out and just growing with the growth of our brands. And it was never the point, though, to go in for celebrity. It was never the point to go in to do a bunch of social influence, marketing on you, right? Or to bait and switch you, or whatever whatever the comments are, to sell out. It's just marketing. And we so appreciate your support. But that was one surprise for me getting into this, is just the business of it all, right? When you start working with brands and how lengthy these contracts are and how personal they are and how some brands
are pain in the ass.
Think you're sales instead of marketing. I'm not sales. I can't guarantee you nothing. Okay. But I do marketing, just to remind you. It's different. But that has been a huge surprise. What about y'all? What big surprise, especially as it pertains to brands?
Mine might be more of a surprise for other people, because I get this a lot of times when I meet people. They'll say like, so what do you do exactly? They're like, do you just get paid by the social media and the podcast? And I say, like, my main business is actually manager training. Like my manager method, where I do have my course, and toolkits I do for organizations, and I do trainings. That's what I spend probably more than a full-time job on. I mean, I work on it a lot. And so the social media is on top of that. The podcast and our podcast social media is on top of that. But for me, there are each three of us have different paths. And so I think that's actually surprising to other people. It's like, I still have spend most of my time building my business. Leigh now is much more in the creator space with her book, and watch her videos. There's reasons for that. Jamie's actually in corporate. And so why I like that for us as a podcast is like, again, like me having the legal background, we have our different experiences. And so, but I think that's surprising to some people, because I do think a lot of people probably think the three of us, all we do is like social media ads, get paid for just posting videos, which again, does not tend to happen. And then in the podcast. So that's it. But what about you, Jay?
I think really probably the most surprising thing working with brands is how little they sometimes know, to be honest.
What do you think? What caption do you think would get the most traction? Me, having been a lawyer in HR, and I'm like, I'll tell you what I think.
I mean, I know all three of us have worked with brands. Sometimes it's insanely frustrating when they have no idea how something works, or a link, or a story post, or a reel, or and I think that's really the most challenging. Is like sometimes you'll get with like a marketing person on the other side, and they know exactly what they're doing, and it's easy peasy. And other times you work with a brand, and it's like you're having to tell them how
you cannot click on a link in TikTok.
You can't click on a link in a caption, so it has to go in my bio.
We are experts in social media strategy,
and so that for me has kind of been the most frustrating. I've on numerous occasions, because I do have a real job. This is my quote unquote side hustle. Would I love to do this one day full time? Abso-fucking-lutely. But I have literally walked out of deals because of the frustration. And sometimes it's even like, I remember one specifically, this was a couple years ago, with a pretty large brand, and memes. They wanted me to do a couple memes, and I had done all these memes. They loved them. They got approved. And then it was last minute. And then it was literally like, I think there was like 30 something emails back and forth. And finally I was like, I'm out. I have a real job. I don't need this money that bad. This is way too much effort. Change this, move the font. I mean, sometimes it's absolutely wild. And I think that's has been the most frustrating for me. Has just been brands that are truly not, this is a new space. This is pretty new space, right? TikTok really, well, I mean, it's been around for a minute, but it didn't really take off with the marketing aspect till like 2020. And then you really saw brands started using it to their advantage in 2022, 23, and especially 2024. And so this is a new marketing thing. So even people aren't that familiar with how to do it. And so that piece is the frustrating piece for me.
Well, one thing I'd say is that's one that was surprised me that just happened weeks ago was a brand used one of my videos.
Oh, yeah.
To promote its own product. And it was like an HR. And so again, some of what I do is like HR, work with different HR companies. And again, I vet them. I like them. I have to like see what you're doing, all the things. This company I'd never heard of. And I'm like, look, they tagged me. I'm like, what's this? It's like they remixed your reel. I'm like, I don't even know what the fuck that means. But I'm looking, I'm like, oh my God. And it was like a video on my like tips for managers, and they're like, great tips. Use our product for things. So it wasn't even like fair use, which is like commentary. No, it was literally for promotional purposes. Spoiler alert, can't do that. That is
illegal.
That is absolutely, and I happen to know that would likely violate the Lanham Act. It's like, anyway, it is that's not an okay thing to do, especially if you don't have an agreement. Then how do you deal with that? I've been on the receiving end, having been a lawyer, of demand letters. Often those demands are for six figures, and there can be at times settlements for things like that, of like copyright infringement and use that's 5-6 figures easily. I decided to use it. Maybe I'll put it on our HR Bestie social, the note that I sent to them. First, I was like, basically like, this is it. What's your proposed resolution? Because I was like, hey, heads up. But they were like, oh my God, I'm sorry, we'll delete it. And I was like, yes. But I wrote, was like basically kind and like, this isn't, like, please let this be a lesson learning, because this is why this isn't okay. And there's a lot of people out there that would not be okay with the deletion. Like even having it published for a second is the same legally as having it published for 100 years. So you would owe me normally. I'm not going to make you do that. I'm going to be kind, Ashley, and let this be a learning lesson. And so I put it, I'm in a Slack group with legal creators still, even though I don't practice. I'm in it with and I posted it in there. And it was the closest thing to a cease and desist I've gotten in a long time, all through the Instagram DMs. But please let that be. If you're thinking about using someone's videos for your own commercial purposes, like, please don't do that.
But see that, I mean, it's messy behind the scenes. right? I mean, we all have a lot going on with our content, with the followers, our content with the brands, our content with prospective brands. I mean, all these, I mean, it is always busy behind the scenes on the socials. It just is.
And I mean, I think we're learning still too, right? I mean,
always. Let's hope.
I mean, I had to set up an LLC. I was like, what the fuck is this? What am I doing? I really am the chief meme officer, motherfuckers. But you know, like a couple years ago when I did all this, I never anticipated any of this. I never thought I'd have a podcast. Like, this is wild and this is fun. And I thank everyone for supporting us. Because this journey is insane. And I still don't know why people find me funny. So
well, maybe on that note of you curious about why you're funny, we shift into questions and comments, but maybe for sake of time, we do comments and we share just a quick best practice or two from us, right? For anybody out there, especially our HR besties out there in the field and function that are thinking about putting themselves out there more from a professional and personal brand perspective, maybe just a couple best practices that we think could work to help them there. Any insights?
I think Ashley already said it, but was be consistent. That's the one thing I think I see the most is people always want to pick my brain and ask me for my advice on, how did you do this? How did you create this? And it's like, I'm consistent. I post every single day. And I try to post a couple times a day on my Instagram channels. Now, sometimes I don't fucking feel like it and I don't. But for the most part, you will see at least 3 posts on each one of my meme pages. Not now the chief meme officer now, because that's truly just me. But consistency is key there. And so keeping your audience engaged is a big one.
My 3, I'll say 1 is Lawyer Ashley is make sure you read your employee handbook. And if you have any doubts and you are in that position, getting back to the question I asked Jamie, if you could lose your job over this, make sure just read your handbook on policies and talk to your boss and make sure you get the proper approvals, because what you don't want is a situation where you're having to choose between social and your job if you really want to do social and can't make that choice. So just be mindful. 2, I'd say, is to be authentic, is to really find what resonates, find what likes it, and try to ignore this aspect of engagement, but find your authentic voice. The 3rd is to be supportive where you can. So like, for example, Ellie Manuel, who's lovely, very lovely, but recently she'd sent a message and was like, hey, this person, other creator, has this brand deal. It's a really cool video. Hasn't really gotten much traction. So she's not following that advice. But she's looking at analytics of a friend. She's like, will you go engage with it? And I loved that example coming off, a month or so ago of Work Besties Day, but like showing that support for other people. So in addition to, if you're just seeing videos as you grow and then supporting people, that can make a lot of difference.
Mm-hmm.
Leigh?
Yeah, you definitely need that network, right? And so not a question, but a quick comment. Having a network, of people that do like or similar work or hobbies or side hustles, boy, does that help, right? So you could always pick their brains as well.
Oh, she got it in.
But I also think about when I first started, when I recognized that, oh, hey, HR Manifesto, and HR Manifesto, if I can say my own name right, is a thing here on the TikTok. Wow, let me go and now grab that brand name across all of the socials. Oh, okay, now let me protect it.
Yep.
LLC, trademark, whatever. Okay, now let me really focus on brand saturation. So I was very strategic at first in the sense that, hey, my content needs to look, sound, and be familiar so that it's recognizable and like, this is me, And so to start out, I was, like I said, I was very strategic and I was Googling a lot. We didn't have the Chat GPT back then readily available, but I was Googling a lot, like best practices for doing this shit, because what is this shit? Like I said, I fell into it. I wasn't trying to really go into it, right? But educating yourself. Whether it's picking brains or it's Chat GPTing or Googling or, trying to figure out best practices for doing X, whatever X is for you. And then I'll also say, I'll end on a 3rd one too, is that this isn't for everybody. And that's okay. Try it on. If it's not working, if you, feel ick, if you don't like it, you can stop. So I have a lot of people, I've had a number of people say, hey, I've been trying this like you, and I just don't like it. Should I continue? What the fuck? Like, do you continue roller skating if you keep falling and it hurts? I mean, don't do something that hurts, but absolutely try it on if you're curious about it. Dip a toe in, whatever. And just, ride the wave, see what happens. See, people look at us now and they think like we just woke up and this shit happened, right? Like it wasn't blood, sweat, and tears and thoughts and networking and money and investment and the shifts and change and all the things we've had to do to get right here. We didn't know shit at the beginning. We weren't even trying to do this. None of us, so it takes time. So again, back to consistency, that is key. But if you don't like it and it hurts, don't do it. It's totally fine. You know what I mean? So, but again, if you want to try it on, do it. Take that risk, take that risk is what I'd say, and dive in and give it a shot, because you don't know if something's for you until you know something ain't for you. Right. I mean, you got to try it.
The one thing I'd say is, in addition to grabbing it on social media accounts, grab it on Telegram.
Oh, I'm not on Telegram.
I'm not on Telegram. I think it only is, I don't know if it's for messaging or just sending cash, but that is the one where on TikTok, where there's a lot of, when you start hitting big is when you have like a bunch of spam accounts on TikTok that are imposter accounts, and we can't get those blocked.
Like
that's
30
a problem
on there. It's crazy.
Yes.
Yeah.
But often what they'll say, they'll say, message me. I guess it is a messaging, but message me on Telegram. And so like so I own Manager Method on other places, but I would have never used it. And so that is one that a lot of the scammers will use. So Manager Method on Telegram. So FYI, if you ever see
now I'm gonna
Manifesto,
look.
Humorous Resources, and Manager Method on Telegram, but that is one I
never even heard of that.
Grab it there, because again, it doesn't stop someone from registering Manager Method, Manger Method, all the things.
ABC.
But at least that is one I hadn't known about. I wish I had, because again, I don't know if anyone's actually been scammed, but I know a number of people that have nearly fallen for it.
Protect yourselves, people. Protect all that hard work, right? So if you're thinking about it, just start doing it. How about that?
Hey, I'm Ryan Reynolds. Recently, I asked Mint Mobile's legal team if big wireless companies are allowed to raise prices due to inflation. They said yes. And then when I asked if raising prices technically violates those onerous 2-year contracts, they said, "What the f*** are you talking about, you insane Hollywood ass?" So to recap, we're cutting the price of Mint Unlimited from $30 a month to just $15 a month. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes. See details.